He's a part of the global hockey cabal. He knows the results. He's in on the script writing. And 14 years, that was your idea, Paul, for them to miss the playoffs. I'm sorry, I'll stop. Hi, Paul. How are you?
Like the Colorado game before it started. I said, well, the Sabres are going to go out to a 4-0 lead,
right.
and then they're going to lose the game. I mean,
right.
That was right in the pregame.
And then their season is going to spiral hopelessly from there. Right. Yeah. Woo! So 14 straight years, Paul. I mean, a caller referenced a conversation we've had numerous times over the years here, but especially, and I think his time frame was important too, because it was 2 years ago when they were finishing strong under Don Granato. Fine. Look at this team go when there's no pressure. Can they do it when the standings are relevant and actually have it be meaningful? And I don't know. I guess we all still remain. Some of us remain unconvinced of that. I'm certainly in that camp. I mean, I don't know what to do with this. I can appreciate that they're playing very well, especially defensively here lately. They've really tightened things up, mostly here. But what does it really, what does it amount to? What does it all mean?
Well, when one of the most respected leaders in the NHL stood there on quite a few locker cleanout days and said, Kyle Oposo, and said seasons do not connect from one to the other. A lot of it is the guys that you see end this season will not be in the lineup when the season starts the next year. Now, I'm not saying it can't. I'm not saying it never does. If people, and I've been impressed with what I've seen lately.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I've seen is, you know how you say, well, first of all, you got to have fun. And I've noticed now that they play the way they're supposed to, they're realizing that the game of hockey can be fun if you go out and play it the right way and go out and, and that will lead to offensive chances. That will lead to defending. That will lead to your fans be screaming. I mean, we've had some pretty good crowds lately who've really enjoyed the games and been loud when the Sabres have, when they won that shootout game. It was really loud in there. I mean, people enjoyed it. And the goals they scored last night in a 3-0 game, the fans were into it. And all that, you can see on their faces that they're enjoying playing hockey with each other. They're more connected with each other now. If they can remember what that's like in October and what the feeling was like before that, basically his team has been together for 3 years as a core, and remember what most of those 3 years were like and how miserable it was and how much fun it was to play hockey when all you have to do is play the game the way your coach wants you to play. Who knows? Maybe it can. I mean, they don't know if it's going to carry over in October. We don't know if it's going to carry over in October. But I can tell you a very respected leader in that room for many years and the former captain said, seasons don't carry over to the next. He goes, you got to start in training camp in day one and start all over again and start earning it.
Yeah, I'm torn, Paul, because I don't want to settle for just because it hasn't happened yet, that these guys have not figured out how to do it. And I know there's a lot of fatigue here with the core group, and we've seen them not be able to handle the pressure of the moment. And all we're talking about is regular season games in like November and December when the standings were still relevant and you were alive, and they just haven't been able to come through. But they are still, you mentioned the core. Now, one big piece was moved in Dylan Cousins and replaced by Josh Norris, who we have barely seen play here. But, hopefully at some point, if not this year, next year, he's a part of this. Another year older, I don't want to just blow that off considering how young a lot of these guys are. Like, I know Tuck and Thompson are established veteran players in the league. And, of course, guys like Zucker and Greenway are. But a lot of the key pieces on this team, I mean, your top line now, you said it yesterday in pregame and with us in interviews in pregame. You got a 19 and a 20-year-old playing on your top line. I'm not sure how many teams in the league would barrel into a new season with that as your top line.
But they're producing.
But they're producing, right? So But the bigger question is, can guys learn how to deal with that pressure that they have folded under in the past? Because there is still a lot of young hockey players on this team that, despite having failed going through it already a couple of different times, still could find their way, I think, to figure out how to deal with the standings mattering and you know, the games in November and December having importance and being able to rise to that moment.
Yeah, they're beating good teams along the way, and some of these teams need these games. And the Sabres are going out, and they're the better team that night, and they win. Ottawa, at the time, it seemed like they needed those games against Buffalo. They didn't win a game against the Sabres, 0-4. That could have ruined them. Now they've clinched a playoff spot, so it didn't hurt them. But at the time, they didn't know that, and Buffalo was the better team in all 4 games. They deserved to win all 4. They weren't lucky. They deserved to win all 4 of those. So, you know, they beat the Edmonton Oilers. They beat Vegas. They went into Washington, scored 8 goals on them. As I recall, I don't think Washington had given up more than 5 all year, you know, against one of the best teams and a team that really picked up momentum in the third period and looked like they were going to come charging back. You know, when Ovechkin scored and the crowd thought he scored again and it was 6-5, it looked pretty dim. But the Sabres, I think it was within a minute or so, came right back and scored a goal to make it 7-5. That's not what we saw earlier in the year. We would see mass panic, and they would. So, from what I've seen, and I'll just keep saying it, from the time Thompson got decked, from that point on, I don't see a team that panics when the pressure's on, as far as winning a hockey game, I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. I know the pressure hasn't been on it trying to be in the playoffs. You know, when they take the lead with one minute into the third period for a 1-goal lead, and it's 3-2, and they finish with a 3-2 win, they weren't doing that earlier in the year. They'd take that 1-goal lead, and they would lose 5-3 because they would just sit back and go, okay, we can't lose the lead. We can't make a mistake. Oh, we're afraid to make a mistake. And then they make a mistake. You know, and all that seems to have improved. But you make a very good point. The pressure of playoffs, the pressure of, you know, that type of hockey isn't what they're experiencing right now. But they've been pretty staunch in not doing what their coaches tell them to do for 3 years now, 2.5, I will say. Right. And, you know, they did it for Granato. They did it for Ruff. Ruff was is still extremely frustrated. You know, he brought it up again yesterday. You heard him on the pregame that all I'm focused on is trying to teach this team how to play the right way all the time. That's all we're trying to do right now. And and he goes, we're not developing hockey players, which means Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is going to watch James Reimer play hockey. And, you know, we're trying to build a program that their muscle memory would go back to how to play the game the right way. For 2.5 years, their muscle memory went to panic. Yeah, mm-hmm. You know, everything was and then they're coming at us. Oh no, you know, and that's the way they played. Well, now they're trying to get into their muscle memory to revert back to playing the right way. All right, you had a bad period against Boston. You're down 2-0. Go play the right way for 40 minutes and beat them 6-1 for the rest of the game. You know, that type of an attitude. That's what he's trying to instill in these guys right now because he's extremely upset that he has not fixed this, that this all happened too late, and he takes responsibility for that. And he said something interesting last night in the postgame. I don't know if you were listening to him. He goes, now it's interesting. He said, I hardly have to say anything now. He goes, the players are doing it for me. He said, guys like Dahlin and Thompson, and he goes, even some of the young guys, they come off the ice and they've got something to say, whether it's good or bad, about the way they're playing. And he goes, I don't have to say too much anymore. And he goes, that means more than, he said, peer pressure like that means a lot more to players than a coach standing there saying it or yelling at them or the rest of that. And he said that's what they've developed into now, where they are taking ownership of their game themselves, where the coaches don't have to step in. And I found that interesting. I've never heard Ruff say that before.
Yeah. Paul, I can remember him saying that many years ago. I'm talking about the teams in like 98, 99. Like where you want to be is the players sort of own the room. They run the room, and that takes care of itself. And like you've got tactical stuff to deal with and meetings about special teams, but really from a holding one another accountable standpoint, if the best place you can be as a coach is to not have to really even deal with it, because the players are just going to take care of it. We'll see if they can graduate to that point. Paul Hamilton on the West Her Hotline with me here on WGR. How interesting do you find it that Luukkonen is on the outside right now looking in? Because I wouldn't, Paul, say he needs to be developed. It's more of a, which was the phrasing you used, or that Ruff is using in general. Like, we're not developing players. We're trying to learn how to win games and play the right way. And I respect and appreciate that. Luukkonen maybe needs to get right more than get developed at this point, because, I mean, he's played how many hundreds of games already now in the NHL, or over 100 anyway. What do you think the way back is for him? Like, is this bad enough that they could consider moving him and replacing him with a different veteran goalie to pair with, I don't know who, Levi or someone else? Like, what do you think the plan will be in goal this offseason with the fact that Luukkonen...
They'll bring back Reimer.
What's that?
If they move him, they'll bring back Reimer, and Reimer and Levi would probably be the pair then. That's the thing. I don't know what they're going to do in goal. I don't know what I would do in goal right now if I were Adams. Because I thought, and as did he, they had their number one goalie last year. He played like a number one goalie. His numbers in the last 35 games were right up at the top of the league. He was making big saves at big times, and it looked like they had their guy. And then, for whatever reason, Ruff alternated goalies to start the year. Well, that was a disaster. That didn't work. Because last year, Luukkonen, the more he played, the better he got. But the alternating goalies didn't help either one of them. So they finally sent Levi down to Rochester, and Luukkonen got the job. He's played 53 games, had some good games. He hasn't been all bad, but certainly has not had the season or has a claim, I think, to the number one goaltending position right now. And I think the idea you had the other day, and I've brought it up on other shows, might be the idea, where you got the two young guys. Reimer does genuinely love it here. He genuinely likes playing on this team. He likes these players. He might be agreeable to coming back. If they tell him, like, look, we have these two young guys. If they both claim the jobs in training camp, we will do you a solid. We will find you a home. We'll waive you, or we'll let you out of your contract, or we will trade you somewhere. We will help you out if you want to re-sign here and see how this works out. Whether he would be agreeable to that, I have no idea. But, he is going to be 38 years old when the season starts. So I don't know if that you want him being your number one goaltender.
My God, no. As excellent
even as well as he's playing.
Yeah. Wouldn't he, with a straight face, tell you that too? I think even he's not ready to play 60 games or 55. I mean, that seems nuts to me at that age. I mean, whatever. I don't mean to put words in his mouth. I don't know the man. No, that would be a disaster to me, or it could be anyway. I wouldn't have high expectations for that. Yeah, my idea, just to fill it out, was to basically run it back. Because I think the biggest claim Luukkonen has to the number one job, Paul, is his contract. They did just make that commitment, and I would want to try to make that work again. And a rocky season in year one of that contract should not be flushable. Like, if they can find a way to upgrade, or at least what looks like an upgrade that involves moving him, like, I'm all ears. I'm not sure how likely that should be. And I think at his age still, I would expect him to bounce back, I guess, is all I would say. Like, You're
doing great. With that contract, if that's your number one goaltender and he has that contract, you're doing great. That's a great contract.
Yeah.
That's a great team contract for a number one goaltender. If he can refine what is wrong with him, in the off season. Now he does have a different hockey or a goalie coach when he goes home for the summer. So I'm sure he checks in with Mike Bales too. But he does have somebody else that works with him in the summertime. Can that goaltender coach play whatever this is out of him? And I'm sure his confidence is shot too. He has eyes. He can see Lindy Ruff doesn't have any confidence in him right now, so that does not help him. And the Philadelphia game was a complete disaster because the Sabres turned the puck over from the word go. So now he's got all these outnumbers coming at him immediately, and he hadn't been in net a while, and 7 wind up on the board on him. And then the Boston game starts the same way. And not only are they turning the puck over, they're giving it to Pasternak. So now he's got Pasternak ripping at him on outnumbers right away. And that didn't go well either. But then he settled into the game because his team settled into the game. He only faced 20 shots. He did make some good saves in the last 2 periods along the way. He didn't have to make a lot of them. But it was good for him that he could make some good saves but didn't have to make a lot of them. It allowed him to settle in and see, okay, yeah, I can make a big save here or something and maybe get a little confidence in himself, and now he sits again. It would probably be better off if you put him in against Columbus tomorrow and just let him build on that, the experience of the Boston game, where it was a better game than he's had in a while once they got him out of the first period, when, again, he's facing Pasternak and outnumbered as soon as the game starts.
Yeah, or last night against Carolina. It could have been a great spot to play. They did have a day off in between. It's not like it would have been impossible to conceive of that. Have you talked to him about where you mentioned, his confidence must be struggling. I get that, the way he's being used. Reimer's played 8 of the last 11 here as we're going. So, he can see what's going on. I wonder how much if at all, he's talked about how this has gone for him and maybe some of the reasons why. That might be like a locker room clean-out conversation more than a in-the-season conversation, I suppose.
Well, in chatting with him, he said, look, at that break, he used that to try to clear his mind and to, kind of flush things and then really work on his game. Figure out what's the problem, work on it. And so he said, maybe the time that he didn't wind up in the net helped him to be able to do those things where when you have a busy schedule like that, you just don't have the time to do that. So, and then the Philadelphia game hits, and that turns into a disaster because the team didn't play well in front of him, and nor did he. So the Boston game, I think, is something he can build on, but he may only see the net one more time this weekend. When in Florida or Tampa, and that may be it for him. So, Ruff has a different agenda right now, and it includes the goaltender that gives this team the best chance to win. That's his agenda, whoever that might be. And right now, it's not number one.
So, goaltending needs to be fixed. Special teams, Paul. This team being so high up in the rankings in 5-on-5 scoring it sort of harkens back to 2 years ago when this team just could, score like crazy at will, but defensively they were a mess. Like their goals against as a team, obviously not good, and their special teams has really killed them. Any one of those things is like, if their special teams are even in the middle, maybe, of the pack instead of in the 20s, right? Both, I think, are in the 20s. Maybe we're talking about a whole different season here.
Yeah, the goal scoring is there. They have been climbing the ladder for a while now in goal scoring. They are 7th in the league in goal scoring with 3.27 goals per game. But you mentioned the goals against. Well, when your goals against is just horrid, and you are down at number 29, and your special teams are down there also. Your power play is down at number 26. And their penalty killing has been off and on. There have been times this year their penalty killing has been excellent. There are times where it has not been. They're 23rd in penalty killing. So, yeah, those are the things that they have to improve on. But, one of the reasons they've gone on this run where they've won 10 of 13 and won 16 out of 20 at home is because they're scoring goals, and they're defending much better. Even though the goals against is still not great, they're not giving up those chances. I mean, the turnovers just have not been there as much as they have. I haven't heard a peep about Owen Power in about 2 weeks. And people just rip him to shreds. Shreds. They despise him in playing for the Buffalo Sabres. I have not had anybody comment on Owen Power for a bit now. And I think he's been part of the improvement. I think his game has improved, as has a lot of others. And that's helped them defend better, with the improvement from him and others. So, but, yeah, when you look at what's happened in this season, well, when your special teams are not good on either side and your goals against is not good and you're not getting big saves and you can't hold leads, I mean, that's their goal scoring would get them leads, and then they couldn't hold them, you win a couple of games and then you lose 4, and then you win 3 and you lose 7, and then you win 2 and you lose 13. That
Thanks for mixing the 13 back in there.
Yeah, that doesn't, and that's not happening right now. And that's that they have now have their first 5-game winning streak since January 2023, and they're working on that, trying to get a 6th tomorrow in Columbus. So, the thing is, they are doing things right. Whether the pressure's on, whether it's not, whether we'll see it in October, whether we don't, they are doing things right. How that shakes down as far as the future of the Buffalo Sabres, as I said, in October we're going to find out.
Paul, I appreciate the 13-game losing streak coming up, as it always does, and rightly so. It's the headliner. But there was, between February 27th and March 8th, I have a 6-game losing streak mixed in there, too. So,
well, I said that one, too.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying, like, that jumped out at me a little bit ago. You mentioned a timeline somewhere, like since maybe the New Jersey game, I think is what you were talking about.
Yep.
And that 6-game losing streak is post that, but still, yeah, the point holds. Like you're seeing a overall, improvement since then. So,
well, that's when it started, and it didn't start like right then and there where they just play great hockey. They play good hockey and then still had games that were stinkers, obviously. Now the stinkers are more few and farther between.
Yep.
They're not coming up as often. I mean, they've had 2 stinkers lately, Detroit and Philadelphia. Other than that, I would say they've played the way they're supposed to, win or lose.